Hi, Jack Canfield here, and welcome to another segment of Talking About Success. I'm here with Graham Wilson, who is a leadership consultant, author, trainer, coach, and an author writing books about leadership as well from the UK.
Thank you,
Glad to
Jack.
have you here in California, my hometown here.
Thank you.
I'm glad to offer you. I love leadership. Leadership's
Okay.
very important, and yet at the same time, doesn't seem to be working very well in the world. We got a lot of problems out there with all the books that have been
Yeah.
written, all the courses, all the everything that's out there on
Yeah.
leadership. What's going wrong? Why isn't it working? What's happening out there?
That's an interesting point, Jack. And as you say, yeah, there's all this advice out there, and people talk about leadership. But what I'm finding with the business I'm working with is that what I'm finding is that the world has changed. So the pace of change is so fast now that what's happening is that we're working in a world where it's very volatile. Yeah,
Hmm.
things are changing very fast. It's very uncertain, lots of ambiguity. And I think what happened is that we've been trained and developed in a world that perhaps wasn't moving as fast as it is now. So what happens is we have all these outdated methods that we're using and trying to use and keep using in a world that's different. So it's a bit like, you've learned to swim in a swimming pool and you come in on Monday morning and then all of a sudden someone's taking the plug out of the pool. There's no water and you're still got your skills for swimming, but you don't need them anymore. So I think what I'm seeing happening is that we're using these outdated methods that need to change.
Hmm. Yeah, I use a similar metaphor. I say if you're walking through the mall and you saw somebody and they got a snorkel in their mouth and they
Yeah.
got the air tanks on the
Yeah.
back and they
Yeah.
got flippers on it, they
Yeah.
look really out of place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense when you're in the
Yeah.
ocean, but it doesn't
Absolutely.
make sense when
No,
you're on dry land. And I think
absolutely.
that,
Yeah.
as you're saying, the
Yeah.
terrain's changing and people
Absolutely.
aren't
Yeah.
reacting
Yeah.
fast enough. So, what are some of the common mistakes you're seeing that leaders out there are
Okay.
making?
I think the one I see all the time is that because we come from a command and control world, we tend to lead and manage in a way that we were managed.
Mm.
And I said before that the world's now changed. So what people tend to do, I think the big mistake is they see themselves as the manager, the person with the answers, the person that's in the hub, and they build their team around them, and the team report to them, and the manager controls everything. So what actually happens, of course, is that people actually stop thinking and wait to be told what to do, and what I'm saying is a manager then becomes the really important thing to make it work. So a classic example is that when a manager will go on holiday, for example, the results will suddenly take a dive and things will go completely wrong.
Mm.
They'll come back in and they'll come in and rescue the team because they're the person that know everything. They have all the knowledge, all the power. And the problem with that, of course, is it does two things. One is it stops that person from being promoted, because if I was that person's boss, I can't actually promote that person, because if I do, the results will fall down because
Mm.
no one there to replace them. The second thing it does is it stops the people from being developed, so their skill level will be really low.
Mm.
I think what we need to do is to change that and teach people how they can develop people, so that team then becomes self-managed and operate without being controlled by the manager.
Mm.
I think when that happens, then we start to get a self-managed team, and then the manager then can move into more of a leadership role.
Mm. So you go into organizations, corporations, all
Yep,
kinds of organizations, and you help these people develop good leadership skills.
absolutely.
What do you think organizations need to do in order to develop good leaders these days?
Okay. I think there's a number of things. I think the first thing is they need to recognize at every level that the world has changed. The world they operate in is different to what it used to be.
Hmm.
I think once people are clear about that, then they can start to make some progression. The second thing then
Well,
is,
let me slow you
okay,
down a minute.
okay,
So, how do you get people to realize the world has changed?
okay.
What do you have them look at?
Okay, so I talk about if they look at the world they live in, and they, for example, if I look at my children, for example,
Hmm.
how they operate is completely different to how I operate. So they change technology, IT, computers, phones, smartphones, all those sort of things are changing the way they operate. And if you look at the pace of change, it's almost everyone I ask, they say, is the pace of change the same as it is now, that it was 10 years ago? And no. And so, well, has it changed? How has it changed? Has it gone up a little bit or a lot? And most people will say it's exponential,
Right.
and it's getting faster. So I think once people start to understand that the pace of change is getting faster and faster and faster, then the next thing is to say, then, have we really changed as human beings? And has our rate of learning changed that much? And actually it hasn't. So I think around about, I noticed around about 15 years ago, I think it must have happened, at a time that no one was looking, because I think the pace of change outstripped our ability to learn. And what's happened there, of course, is that
That's
now,
a really good point.
yeah, so the pace of change is so fast that we can't keep up with it. So, the traditional way of planning, for example, where you had a plan that was a long plan,
Hmm.
these days, it's actually you need to plan one step at a time,
Hmm.
and it's more of an evolving plan. So the planning process is becoming more important than the plan. So I think when you start to describe to people the challenging they're facing in their world, and the fact that things aren't working anymore, like companies spending so much time on the budgeting process, and they spend millions every year on the budgeting process, and the one thing they know at the end of it, it's wrong. So why would you do
Why do we
that?
keep
Why do we
doing?
do that?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's really important is once you start talking in their language and start to really sort of get them to think about the world they're living in right now, they suddenly realize actually it is different.
Right.
Where I live in the UK, there's a service station, Chester Services, and it's been there for at least, I would say, 15 years. And about a year ago, a sign appeared outside it, and it says they're now fully open.
And
And I'm thinking, how can that be? It's been there for at least 15 years. And when I think about it, I think what's happened is, of course, is that in the old days, if you're building a service station, you get a pot of money, and what you do, you build it all in one go and have a great launch, and then
Mhm.
hopefully you'll make your money back in a few years' time. Whereas these days, what they've done, of course, is they built the petrol station, opened it, got the money back, then they put the restaurant on, got the money back, then they put the hotel in there, got the money back, and they
I
put the
see.
concessions in.
Yep.
So I think what we're seeing now is people are starting to plan in different ways, and I think a lot of it is the key thing is around to change people, you have to educate them. So a lot of it is actually educating to help them to realize actually the world has changed,
Right.
and they find out they once they start talking about it and discussing it, they know.
Good.
Yeah,
So anyway, I cut you off.
yeah,
Some of the other things that
yeah.
people are needing to do.
So I think once we've got this realization the world's changed. I think the next thing then is we need to really sit down with the organization and say, okay, well, if this is your strategy, this is where you want to take your business, this is your vision, this is how you want to get there. Then what type of leader do you need? And really being clear, organizational wide, what does that look like? And I think one of the
Mhm.
things I'm finding now, people are really confused about what leadership is, and what management is, and what's the difference, and what is it I should be doing on a Monday morning. So what we do is we work with people to work out is, can you, actively and clearly define what the role of a leader is in your organization? What is their purpose? What are the key principles you need to operate? And what is it they should be doing on a day-to-day basis to be successful? And once we've got that clear, then it makes a big difference. So for one example is, I always talk about the role of a leader is about really creating a high performance environment where success is inevitable. That's the pure key role, I think, of a leader at whatever level you are. And people start to get that and understand is, they're crafting, they're creating, they're creating an environment where people can be successful. And I think once people start to get that mindset, they start to then behave in a different way.
So once I create an environment that's safe enough for people
Yeah,
to be creative and
yeah,
empower them
yeah,
to really step into that,
yeah.
then everything kind of starts to move on its
It's
own.
not. I think so. Yeah, and I think there's a step once you've got that big picture clarity around the purpose, the role, and the principles of leadership. Then you can start then teaching new world tools and techniques that people need to do.
Hmm.
So what are some of the techniques that I need to be successful in today's world? So if you take that example of the manager getting stuck as a manager, and managing everything, and the classic meeting where you go to where it's a round robin meeting where everyone has to do a feedback session of what they've done.
Hmm.
Actually, it's not really a team meeting; it's a one-to-one session, 10 times with the
Right,
manager.
right, right, right.
Um, so we can teach them how to do things differently, and some of the tools and techniques they can use. So, example, I love getting teams together and saying, okay, so let's look at our biggest challenge or opportunity we have, and now let's work together collaboratively to actually solve that problem, and using techniques and tools to actually get them to go through a process to come up with some great solutions.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think once we start to build that leadership toolkit, then they can start to operate and behave in a different way. And I think the key thing as well, if we think about this world of crafting solutions, where I think a leader these days is, it's not the person that has the answers. The leader's the person who actually works with people, runs a process, and gets the people to come up with the answers. I
Hmm.
think it's a big distinction to the old world, which
Well, then
was
people are much more invested in manifesting that answer into reality when they've helped
absolutely,
come up with
yeah,
it as well, for
yeah.
sure.
I always talk about, if you want commitment, then include people,
Hmm.
get them involved, get them understanding what the problem is,
Hmm.
get them work together, and
Hmm.
actually get them to come up with a solution. Then it's more likely
Yeah.
they're going to be committed to make it happen.
Well, what I love about your work, because we've talked about it a
Yeah,
little bit off camera, is that you have the ability to take some of these I don't know what to call them, poster phrases,
Yep.
and actually turn them into actions that people can actually do
Yeah.
once you become aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
build the skill
Yeah.
sets, and then you can
Yeah.
turnkey it over, and
Yeah.
the transformation occurs.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
good for you.
Thank you. Thank you,
I
Jack.
wish we had I wish we had an hour to talk because I
I mean,
love
it
it.
would be great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love it
Yeah.
myself. So if people want to get a hold of you to
Okay.
find out about, I know you're writing a book,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and they want to get a
Okay.
hold of you to
Yeah.
come into their
Yeah.
organization and work with
Okay.
you, where do they go?
Okay. So the book is called Leadership Laid Bare, which
Mhm.
is the naked truth of what great leaders actually do.
Oh, great.
And absolutely,
That's easy to
that's what we do.
remember. .co.uk.
That's it. That's the one.
Very good. All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you.
Well, I love having you here.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for joining me. And if
Thank
you
you, Jack.
want to take leadership to a new level in your life or your organization and become the leader that's needed for this time in history to produce the solutions that we need both on a local level and a global level, this is a guy you should work with. So go to his website, get his book. So we'll be back in just a moment. Until then, stick with us. And thank you again for joining me.
Thank you, Jack. Pleasure.